Our heartfelt thank you goes out to the residents of Teller County, Colorado, and the United States for your inspiring and constant support as Sheriff Mikesell continues in his fight for the constitutional rights of the people of Colorado. Here is the latest update from Sheriff Mikesell and Commander Bonnelycke.
Well, hello again, Teller County. This is Sheriff Jason Mikesell, and I'm here with Sven Bonnelycke today, Commander of our operations. And we want to talk to you again about Senate Bill 25-003. We've testified several times now on this bill. I just finished testimony on the financial portion of this bill. This bill is still a train wreck. It really is going to be an issue for all Colorado citizens across the board, not just gun owners. This bill has serious implications to finance, how our Department of Wildlife works, and really it also is going to impact hunters, because a lot of the funds that they're talking about is going to come out of state parks pockets. And what happens with that, those are your licensing for fishing and hunting, and that funding goes to search and rescue functions. That money goes to the slips at Pueblo that you now see being taken away by CPW. I think they've extended it through November or December, but really a lot of things are going to come on our chopping block. We have over 900 and some species of animals in the state that money actually is there to defend and protect. And I think that's a big piece to Colorado, is understanding our wildlife and the concerns that we have for that, as for hunters and recreationalists throughout the state of Colorado. So I really hope people understand that this is not only going to affect gun registry and gun rights and Second Amendment rights, it's also going to affect your hunting rights, your fishing rights, and really how they treat state parks in the future. So let's get right back to 003 again. And I tell you, after testimony, both Sven and I testified, we know it's going to be on a party line vote under testimony in this group. And I will tell you that Representative Armagoss, Soper, Caldwell, and Winter were awesome. They were great representatives of the state, and I was very impressed to watch them have the questions they did and really look at how we deal with things. So, Sven, how are we still going to be affected?
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear after the testimony where the intent was, because the sheriffs wouldn't go neutral on the bill, that they were going to put this burden initially on CPW, us, and then CPW. And I think it was pretty clear that because of the fact that the sheriffs were opposed, that they put it back on the sheriff, which is nothing more than retribution. I think it came out of the Finance Committee. I mean, it'll go to the floor. If it passes the House, it's going to go back to the Senate. But the biggest concern is going to be that because it is a straight party line vote, I think it is definitely going to affect us, much like we said in the very first podcast when we kind of broke the bill down and explained the different nuances about it. It's really going to just create what we originally believed was a registry. It's going to prohibit your ability to go get the standard weapons that you've been able to get without having to, what they like to call, pathway to purchase, which in other words is just you buying your rights back from the state. It's going to be a bad thing for us.
I know what you want to say.
I do, but I'm trying to be polite in terms of my verbiage. So
you know, it's this one's a hard one, because I'm telling you, I just have not dealt with a legislative body like this. And you know what's surprising to me is that at the end of the day, I have Democratic friends too, and they're sick over the way that the very left-leaning Democrats at a Denver legislature are really pushing the state. They're even surprised. And it's not the fact that we're Republicans, Independents, Democrats across the board. I think it's the fact that it's just belies common sense. And the amount of decorum that you get as a sheriff or a law enforcement official in front of the legislators is just appalling to me. And we did put out a video on that as well. You know, here's the other issue that really is concerning to me. They are making a registry in the state. It's going to register your firearm, your serial numbers, and it's going to register you that have that weapon if you purchase one, which is illegal by federal law. We can't do that. So it puts us in a bad position as sheriffs, because we will have one state law saying we're going to do it, and you have one federal law that says you can't do it. The secondary piece to that is the state says, well, sheriffs, you're going to recoup your money through the funding mechanism of fees. Well, there's an issue with that, because we're basically selling you your right back in the state now, and that's really illegal.
Section 242 of Title 18, United States Code, makes it a crime for a person acting under color of any law to willfully deprive a person of a right or privilege protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. The 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution.
And at the same time, a lot of those fees are going to go back to CPW anyways. And it's going to, sheriff's offices, counties work on 12-month fiscal cycles. The problem with this is if I have to spend $500,000 out of the county taxpayers' funds to do that, and we're just one county, you have 64 other counties to do this. At the end of the day, we will not in that year receive those funds back, so which means we have a budget shortfall in a county. The secondary piece, how many years is it going to take to actually get that funding back? I think that's huge on taxpayers because now all of a sudden this creates what we call an unfunded mandate. And there are issues in this state because it's against the law to make us do an unfunded mandate, which means we may not have to listen to it, which I agree with, but that then goes to court. The other side of it too is basically Legislator Bacon made a comment that the sheriffs, you either have to do it or you could face consequences, is really what she put out there. And what that means for sheriffs is this, is if we say we're not doing this, then the post board under the Attorney General can go after us. And that's a concern to me too. It's almost like we're being threatened on every level of this thing. We're being threatened on if you don't go to a neutral position, then we're just going to make you have to fund it.
My ask is that by taking the sheriffs out of the bill, they would move to neutral. They informed us that they would still oppose, as you saw this evening. And so as a result, we feel comfortable staying with the original approach that they had already seen in the Senate version of the bill.
And then if you don't follow through on this, we're going to come after your post-certification, which means you can no longer be a law enforcement officer in the state of Colorado. So I think the taxpayers need to understand, and the citizens of Colorado, just how far this is about to go. I'm not happy with this bill. I'm not happy with what it's doing to citizens. And I will tell you, I think it's bipartisan too, on people not being happy about this bill, both Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. I think when there's a few that want to push a social issue through a legislative body and it affects Colorado in such a way, it's unbelievable to me.
Well, you know, and I think the timeline on this, never minding the fact that we all inherently agree it's a bad bill for us as citizens, and it makes the sheriff's office kind of a double-edged sword in terms of if we stand our ground and we don't support the bill, but it also really kind of puts our citizens in the middle of everything. If we choose not to support the bill or not act on the bill, technically we're screwing over the citizen, because if they do want to retain that right, if you're going to pay for it, you know, what do we tell the citizen if they come to us wanting an eligibility card? I mean, if we're standing our ground, we're going to have to tell our citizen no, which puts our citizens in a bad light, you know, or in a bad way, and then us in a bad light to the point where, you know, it hurts sheriffs and it hurts the whole process and it hurts our freedoms. The problem that I have is the timeline on this thing. I mean, if this were to pass everything and the governor signed it, September 1st of this year, they have nothing set in terms of how this is going to function. There's mechanisms that have to be set up between CPW, firearms dealers, even from instructors who are going to be the ones that are authorized to teach these 4-hour and 12-hour extended firearms safety course. I mean, this is going to get ramrodded to a point it's going to be a big problem. It's just going to be a failure from the get-go.
They're not going to be ready for this. And I'll be quite honest, the state of Colorado does a horrible job dealing with these things. I mean, just try to go down and get a title for a car or a license or, you know, the 100 other things that you do. It takes Division of Wildlife or CPW approximately 120 days to sometimes get into just a hunter safety class and to finish it. So how do we think that if we use that timeline, so 120 days to get through the training, to get your license, then you got to go through all the licensing issues, you know, you're talking well over 120 days for this. I could see closer to 180 days. They haven't licensed any instructors. We don't even know what the licensing system would be. They're probably not even going to decide that until September. So really, I think the bottom line with this bill is it is going to stop gun owners from purchasing weapons, which I think is ultimately the goal. It's ultimately the goal also to split sheriffs from their constituents, because Legislator Bazenacre, I think that's his name, is Bazenacre, he made that comment, right? Sheriffs believe that they are the holders of the Second Amendment and that we are the defenders of such.
What I've heard from our sheriffs is that they view themselves as the protector of Second Amendment rights on behalf of their constituents, as you've heard today. Unfortunately, I think they also have constituents who would agree with this policy.
And then that their citizens even think this is true. So he's basically calling citizens of Colorado stupid. And he's telling us basically, hey, sheriffs, you don't know the law either. So that's kind of what I got out of those comments. It was pretty snide. He is, from just dealing with him, he's not very respectful to understand what anybody else is. It's just his one single idea that I think is all he thinks about. So I think as we go through this, it's going to get worse. And now it will go through with the information that was received from the financial piece to the next step, which is going to be funding it. So we'll see where it goes there because there is no more testimony that can be given. But under the financial aspect, this last testimony that I gave and many, many others gave, that can be used in the notes that goes to the next group that will then decide on your rights to own a firearm. So the only thing that can be done now is for you as citizens to reach out to every single House member throughout Colorado and let them know how you feel. You have to do that. If you want to keep your gun rights, that is the only way to do that. Our staff has put out online that information can be found at LEG, and then we will put up another link to that on this video, and then also for your different areas. But you have to go through your districts. You have to contact them. They have to be worried that they're not going to be voted back into office, and I think that is a very strong thing that you need to do as citizens. The next piece is to reach out to Governor Polis's office direct, by email, by letter, by phone call, whatever you can do to get that in front of him to say, veto this bill. By him not signing it, it would go into a law anyway. That's the problem in Colorado, is if he does not decide to make a stand on whichever side of the politics he rolls on, that this bill will go into effect. He has to veto the bill. And then you have to let him know that that's what you expect as a Colorado citizen, and that's what we want. Sven, you got anything else?
No, the only thing I would recommend that is if you do reach out to your senators, to your representatives, you reach out to the governor's office, be polite, be respectful. If we're argumentative, if we yell and scream to make our opinions heard, all they're going to look at us, as they already do, as radical people, and it's going to shut them down and not going to listen to it, and they're going to push your ideas forward. But be respectful, get involved, be a constituent of the state, make sure that your voice is heard, do it in a respectful manner. And the only way we can change any of this is the active involvement. It's for the people, by the people. Let's take that to heart.
That's a big thing. We have to be able to get in front of people and let them know how we feel about these things. I think for far too long, a lot of us as gun owners didn't really look at things. And the only time we really looked at anything was when we went up for a gun bill. But really, your vote matters every single time. And that's where we've got to get better at voting for different issues, because really, that's why we're in this position now. There's far more gun owners in this state than there are just normal people. And my hope is that you can all maybe force those issues. But here's the thing, it has to be House members. Your senators at this point don't matter. It's your House districts that you have to contact those individuals and let them know. So thank you, Teller County and all of Colorado. It seems that we have a huge following base now. We just want to say thank you to everyone. God bless, and hopefully we can get this taken care of.